Hello and welcome to the 1992 Premier League preview show. I am your host, Dan Bardell, joined by Jonathan Wilson, as always, to preview every game in the Premier League this week. When I say every game, loosely, I'm saying that because we basically predict 7 of them and preview 3 of them. And the 3 that we are going to focus on this week are West Ham against Newcastle, Liverpool v Villa, Spurs v Chelsea. Villa again, I can hear Jonathan think inside his head, just can't help the way the fixtures fall. I'm not picking them because it's Villa. It's just the games seem to be the most interesting games of the weekend.
Really? Okay.
I mean, is it nice that Villa are winning every week at the moment? Absolutely. Is it nice that Sunderland are winning every week? Absolutely. But the Sunderland haven't made the top 3 games, Jonathan.
No, yet again, you're anti-Sunderland bias. Just because we were the 2 biggest teams of the 1890s, you've still got this chip on your shoulder about it, and you really need to grow up and get over it.
I predict Sunderland to win nearly every week, and you predict Sunderland to lose nearly every week. I guess you're going to keep doing that now.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't trust them at all. I mean, this week we've got David Moyes returning to the Stadium of Light, which the narrative is written. It will be awful. This is going to be one of the worst Mondays in the history of Mondays. So, yeah. I mean, I'm giving away what my prediction is. But...
Yeah. Do you genuinely not... Are you joking, or do you genuinely not trust Sunderland?
I mean, I'm aware I'm being irrational here because they are playing really well. If you want to do a little bit on Sunderland...
Yeah, why not?
Well, look, I think... If you have to the downside, which you have to acknowledge, the fixtures up until last Saturday had been very, very easy as far as the Premier League goes. That on Saturday morning they'd only played one team in the top half, which is Crystal Palace. Not only that, but they played Forest in the middle of the 39 days of Ange, which is the time it turns out you really want to play them. And we played Villa when Villa was still in there. We're not in the Champions League. It's not fair, man.
We're in our not scoring phase.
So, yeah, Sunderland got teams at the right time. Maybe a little bit unlucky they got United just as they were starting to turn the corner. But, fundamentally, Sunderland had home games against Wolves, West Ham, Brentford, Villa in a bad spell. That's why they've taken 10 points from 4 home games. They've been pretty straightforward. As far as the Premier League goes, straightforward home games. Everton this Monday is the biggest test they've had at home, probably. And even away games, they played United away, Palace away, but they hadn't had particularly tough away games. But then obviously you go to Chelsea and win. That's a big thing. And I think the way they played at Chelsea was really encouraging. The fact that Regis Labuse had played with a back 3 twice previously this season, I think. He might have done it very late in games, but he went to a back 3 after Reinildo was sent off against Villa to deal with having 10 men. And he went to a back 3 having gone 2-0 down to Manchester United after 35 minutes or so. But he started with a back 3 here, despite Alderete, who's been one of the better players this season, not being available. And it worked really, really well. They played it really, really well. The 5-4-1. So, low block, very hard for Chelsea to pass their way through. Chelsea kept slinging balls in the box for some reason, where Sunderland had loads of big blokes heading it out. But then when they needed to press, they pressed with incredible aggression and incredible precision. And when they had the opportunity to break, they broke in numbers. So that, I think, is a template for how they can play against elite sides. And that is encouraging. I think it's encouraging that this is the best start by a promoted side since Hull in 2008-09.
Yeah.
But Hull, it was almost all about Giovanni. Whereas for Sunderland, it's a different match winner every week.
Yeah.
Jack has had a really good start to the season. Sadiqi's had a really good start to the season. Mukiele's had a really good start to the season. Alderete's had a really good start to the season. There's a lot of players you can name. And then you look at the who are the 3 players involved in the winner on Saturday. It's Gertrude hitting the big up and under. And he's a player who sort of... Sunderland signed 14 players in the summer. And he was probably the one who sort of snuck in without even noticing because he came in on loan right at the end. He was a fullback in Arne Slot's final side that won the Dutch league. But so far for Sunderland, he come off the bench and played in midfield. Then when he starts, he plays the left-sided centre-back. So he can play fullback, centre-back and midfield. That's really useful. He is one of the better... I think he's in the top 5 paid players at the club, suggesting how highly they rate him.
Yeah.
But he smacks that big up and under to Brian Brobby, who's also one of the top 5 paid players. And he hasn't started a game yet. And he holds it up incredibly well, incredibly intelligently.
For about 15 minutes as well, I think he held that ball up.
Yeah, he shouldn't have been allowed to do so. I don't know if you noticed. So, yeah, I'd been clearing up after pest control had been round.
Oh, no.
Because we've been having some problems with cockroaches. Not an infestation, it turns out. Just a couple of stray ones have wandered in, but that's more annoying because you can't just target the nest. They're coming from somewhere else in the building, which is frustrating. But anyway, that's not important. I saw us go 1-0 down after 4 minutes, and then was like, right, focus on the cleaning, turn the phone off, doesn't matter, ignore this. Football's terrible. Why are we in the Premier League? Championship was better. And it was only when I was dumping stuff in the bins afterwards, I turned my phone back on. I was like, look at that. And so I was out at Brentford in the evening. So, yeah, watching the highlights on the phone on the train over to Brentford. And I just couldn't work out. I didn't have a sound on. I couldn't work out who it was who makes the run past Brobby, which draws a defender out the way for Talby. And it was only when I watched it about the fifth time I realised it's Geertruida. He follows up his own pass.
Yeah, incredible.
And so Brobby's held it so long. The Geertruida who's played the pass has run, 70 yards, 80 yards, and gone beyond him. And there's no Chelsea players have got back.
A hell of a finish as well.
And I think with that finish, you can see Talby knows he's going to score as he runs onto it. And you can see the Sunderland fans know he's going to score. There's something about the whole movement. It's like, this is going in. And yeah, Talby, he's played regularly. He's been fine. I think he did a really good job playing at left wing back against Villa. But he hadn't been one of the sort of outstanding new signings. I think there'd been not grumbling, but there'd been a bit of, I'm not sure why he's getting picked rather than Simon Adingra. And then he does that, and he becomes a hero. So there's a whole load of different players have done very good things this season. That's very positive for Sunderland. But, it can't last. There's going to be regression. The good news is there's 6 wins from safety.
Yeah. You let your mask slip a little bit whilst you were talking about that game and allowed yourself to get excited, and I enjoyed seeing you smile and get excited about Sunderland. But you did say something before that, which I thought was funny. You said about Everton being your hardest game. Everton are on bad form. You've got them at the right time as well.
It's David Moyes. David Moyes coming back to the Stadium of Light. David Moyes is the least popular Sunderland manager of the last sort of, I'm sorry, that's not fair, because there was a whole load of managers who I can barely even remember in League One, who we tried to sort of erase from history. But he's the least popular. Is he the least popular manager to lead Sunderland in the Premier League? Probably since Howard Wilkinson, yes. Look, he's obviously a very good manager. We've seen what he's done, particularly at Everton, but also at West Ham. He is a good manager, but his year at Sunderland was dreadful. And I think a lot of Sunderland fans find it hard to forgive him for taking over from Sam Allardyce when Sunderland were really on the up. For some reason, deciding that he didn't want to sign Jan Villa, who was keen to join. I mean, supposedly was sitting in the airport waiting to get on the plane. I don't know if that's literally true, but was keen to join. And then spent what at the time was a club record on Didier Ndong, who was utterly dreadful. And the football was incredible. Sunderland had stayed up the previous season. What confirmed they were staying up was a 3-0 win against Everton. Was it the last? It was midweek. I can't remember if it was the last week of the penultimate week of the season. And they absolutely battered them. Looked great. And then their first home game of the new season was against Everton, and they got beat. I think 3-0, it might have been 3-1. Lukaku scored a hat-trick. And Moyes was like, well, it's a relegation battle. What do you expect? Well, it's like, well, yeah, hang on. Okay, fair enough. But we can remember 3 months ago when we battered this lot 3-0, and now we're getting beat 3-0 or 3-1. What's changed? The difference is that you've come in. So it never really worked. But you can imagine him coming back and enjoying a rare David Moyes win at the Stadium of Light just to annoy everybody.
I can't imagine that, because I've gone for Sunderland 2, Everton 0, with Isidore to score the first goal.
Well, I hope you're right. I've gone for Everton to win 1-0 and Jai to score the first goal.
I'm not sure how long you can. I'm not sure how long you can keep getting away with this of predicting Sunderland to lose every. I mean, fair play to you, because you're almost sacrificing your own game to keep Sunderland in the top 4. I think.
Where are we points wise?
Well, you got 9 points, which puts you on 68. I got 6, which puts me on 66.
Well, that was following the narrative and saying that Arsenal would beat Palace 1-0 with an Eberechi goal, which is exactly what happened. That was
a great prediction. I got 1 score right, but didn't get the scorer in that game. I can't remember which game it was now, but not a great way. 6 points isn't good. As you know, you've got it. If you just kept getting 8 points, Jonathan,
Yeah.
You'd be fine. You've got 9. Six is no good.
Data says. The data says 8-point average wins you the league.
Yeah, the Opta supercomputer. That's what the Opta supercomputer says. It's probably worth noting at this point that I didn't do a running order this week and confidently said to Jonathan that we don't need one. We've already previewed a game that we're not supposed to. So maybe we do need a running order.
You should never open the door to let me talk about Sunderland. That's a bad idea.
Okay, well, I'll shut that door and I'll open a new door for you. Let's talk about West Ham against Newcastle, and we'll start with West Ham. West Ham are at home, Jonathan, which is never a good sign. They're absolutely rubbish at home. Atmosphere, I mean, if there is one, I was about to say the atmosphere turns, but usually there isn't one, and then it becomes quite angry. You can see this kind of same pattern emerging against Newcastle, who really needed a win last week and got one.
I very much enjoyed your Larry Grayson impression at the start there. I don't know if that was deliberate, but...
No, it wasn't, because I don't know. The only thing I know about Larry Grayson is Villa had a player, well, you'll know who he is. Villa had Simon Grayson for a bit and everyone called him Larry because of Larry Grayson, but I don't know who Larry Grayson is.
So Larry Grayson was sort of... he was like a camp TV presenter in the days when camp was a thing. He did things like Generation Game and, he was sort of a budget Bruce Forsyth.
I'm a budget Larry Grayson.
But his catchphrase was "shut that door."
Okay, no, I didn't. I wasn't aware of that. I just followed on from what you said. To be honest, you led me down that path.
This is maybe a new route we can take. I can try and induce you to use 1970s and 80s TV hosts.
Well, you did a good job.
But yes, you're right about West Ham. As you know, I've just been in Buenos Aires, and the reason for that was I was doing a documentary on River Plate.
You don't like to talk about this, in fairness, do you? You're quite shy about it.
Yeah, but it's not out yet. It'll. There's a beautiful robin sitting on the fence just outside, just looking at me with a very, very red breast. Feels very Christmassy.
About to get taken away by 50 cockroaches.
Well, to be fair, I think we've only had 6 or 7 cockroaches. So when they let off the fumigation thing, that they all come running out, and we were told to. Well, I was in Buenos Aires at the time, but my missus was told, stay out the flat. It's not pleasant. You don't want to see it. And apparently, only 2 came out, which suggests it's not a major problem.
Yeah, to call it an infestation, I'm not sure you can call 2 cockroaches an infestation. You've left the window open, is what's happened.
It's not an infestation. There's he's called Daniel. He's the pest control man. He's from Doncaster. Daniel from Doncaster. He's a great comedy figure. He's got a load of great anecdotes. He one of his gigs used to be, Ronnie Scott's the jazz club in Soho.
Yeah.
He used to do their pest control, and he'd have to go in at like 9 o'clock on a Sunday night, and we'd lock him in until the Monday morning. And as you can imagine, and so the club was all kinds of sort of stuff lying about that kind of attracts pests or whatever. So it's quite a busy job. But it was other pest controllers wouldn't do it because they said it was haunted. And he said there was one night that suddenly a cupboard door just opened and shut, and he was massively freaked out. But I haven't enjoyed the cockroach experience. Daniel has been an absolute joy. So if anybody does have any problems with pests, get in touch with me. I'll pass on Daniel's details because he's not just a pest control man. He's an entertainer.
I'm going to clip this up and take out the pest control man bit, and it'll just look like you're waxing lyrical about me.
I mean, people will know that's not true. But anyway. The documentary, if we get back to that.
Okay, I mean, we could get back to West Ham and Newcastle, but you wanted to get back to the documentary.
The documentary, the sort of hook for it is that River Plate are the best supporter team in the world by average attendance. Yeah. And I read down a list of the top 10. I know all kind of what you'd expect: Borussia Dortmund, Bayern Munich, Manchester United, Real Madrid, the Milan clubs. West Ham are 9th. And you sort of think, it's nuts that they've got a stadium as big as that. And also that it weirdly feels like it's a disadvantage for them.
No, it really is.
That somehow the size of a stadium, the fact that it's. I mean, okay, there were times like European run where the atmosphere there was really good, but generally it seems to be a stadium that when it does generate an atmosphere, it's a negative one. It struggles to create an atmosphere at all just because of the size of it, the shape of it, the running track. But it definitely feels like that's a stadium that saps the energy from the home team and does the opposite of what a stadium is meant to do. Yeah,
completely. I mean, it does the opposite of what Upton Park did as well. Like
completely, yeah.
West Ham fans hate it. I think West Ham fans probably like very little about their club at the moment. I don't know whether you saw the comparison midweek. I think it was. I've got to try and remember this correctly. It was that like Jared Bowen is like the human in the Muppet Show. So like he's the human, and then everything around him is the Muppets, because he's like the only thing that's good about the team and the only thing that's good about the club.
Right. Okay. But I mean, where that analogy falls down is that, we talked about Larry Grayson already. You talked about Bruce Forsyth. Kermit is up there as one of the great 1980s TV show presenters.
That's true. So you could say that Bowen is Kermit, I guess.
Well, yeah, but I mean, okay, Miss Piggy's a bit of a diva, but she's talented in her own way. Fozzie, I think, is quite funny. They even Animal's got a certain charisma on the drums. It's sort of, I think the use of Muppet to mean a fool doesn't really play true to the TV show original. I think they're a gifted bunch of entertainers.
I did like the analogy. There's something about it that I liked. Maybe it's not to do with like being good. I don't know what it is, but I liked the analogy when I heard it. But you just ruined it. So no, we should not bought it up. But they're hopeless. West Ham. I predicted at the start of the season that they would go down and that they would go through 3 managers. I think that's looking at a decent shout at the moment.
It really is. Yeah, I mean, they were obviously going to be struggling. I think. Well, what's interesting, I mean, look at the bottom 3 at the minute. What do they have in common? I say that. Hang on, let me just check the third bottom team. I think it is.
I've not wrote anything down, Jonathan. So you testing me?
Yeah,
West Ham Wolves.
West Ham Wolves and Forest. What links them?
I'm not sure, because Wolves haven't changed manager yet.
They either are or have been managed by Nuno.
That's a great one.
And I'm obviously Tottenham with the other team, but Nuno's one of his great strengths is his relationship with the agent Jorge Mendes.
Yeah.
Is this a sign of Mendes's declining power? That he's not able to ship in the fleets of gifted Portuguese players that he used to be able to? Because I think what you've seen, I mean, yeah, Forest are a slightly different case, obviously, but West Ham and Wolves have in common the fact that they have notably spent less and less over the last 4 or 5 years. And that I think you've been, as the level of the Premier League has gradually risen, they've got slightly worse. And whereas this level might have been good enough 5 years ago to stay up, it's put them both of them in big, big trouble this season.
Yeah. I'm not sure we can pin West Ham on Nuno and Mendes there.
Well, no, that's true. But it's an interesting coincidence, and it'd be interesting to see who he's able to bring in January.
I honestly don't think he'll be there. I think he's the kind of manager that can get frustrated and he'll just leave. I don't think he's realised what he's let himself in for.
Yeah, and I think there's what's definitely true as well is I think you saw this with Postecoglou. Managers are so desperate to manage, they take rebound jobs. That they're so hurt by getting sacked that they think, I've just got to get back in the game. And then they take the first job Dean Smith's a great example of that.
Yeah, Leicester.
They just take the first job that comes, that even if it's deeply inappropriate, it's just going to make the situation worse. But just, I need to manage. And I guess, look, maybe there's a financial incentive there that you get a job even if you only have it for, well, in Andrew's case, 40 days. But even if you only have it for a few months, at least you get the payoff and you've got another 5 million, 10 million quid in the bank. And that must be comforting. But I think there is a psychological thing that they take jobs on the rebound. And yeah, if you're Nuno, what's attractive about that West Ham job? Unless you look at those and think it's the 9th biggest crowd in the world. Yeah, I could really do something with that. I guess they do have, the nature of being a manager is you have a lot of self-confidence. But you look at that squad and you look at what he's got to work with in a likely budget, and it's a really, really, really tough job. And I think there is a significant possibility both that Arsenal run away with the league and that West Ham and Wolves get cast adrift at the bottom. Because
there's no leadership in that squad. It's a Frankenstein squad that's made up of a few different managers. They backed Lopetegui heavily with some, quite frankly, bizarre signings, and then he went pretty quickly with his tail between the legs. There is just nothing good about that team other than Jared Bowen. Like, if anything was to happen to him, I mean, they're in all sorts of trouble anyway, but if anything was to happen to Bowen, there's literally not another player in that team that I think you can rely on.
That's probably true. I mean, Fulkrug, I think when he joined, seemed like an interesting signing, but part of the problem is he's never fit. He also, that sort of player, he does need service. If you're whacking long balls to him, fine, he'll hold it up, he'll knock it on. But then you have to have players who are going to run off him, which I guess Bowen can do. But you also have to organise that. It's not an organic thing. You have to practice it. And you see the way Sunderland broke against Chelsea. That's how you do it. It's perfectly all right to sit deep. It's perfectly all right to go direct to a big man, but you then have to do something else, which is get the players running off him. There's no sign of that with West Ham. I mean, maybe Nuno can develop that. He hasn't been there very long.
No, true.
I think, realistically, you have to give him a bit more time because he's dealing with sort of a deep-rooted malaise at the club that's been there quite a long time. But it's going to take a while to get morale back. But the fact there hasn't been even a semblance of a new manager bounce, that's got to be pretty worrying, I think. Yeah. And also, Nuno's not, as we saw at Spurs, he's not a sort of bubbly, charismatic person who, by force of personality, can get you a couple of results. He's systems, he's process, and he might not get time to put that in place.
He could look at the Forest situation. He didn't, excuse the pun, but they didn't put up any trees when he first went in, and then the second season they were good. But it's a very real possibility West Ham aren't going to be in the Premier League in any kind of second season. And at the moment, I'd say there is certainty to go down. I said it before a ball was even kicked, but I don't see any way in which they stay up. I
mean, who could conceivably be worse than them?
Wolves.
But you need three teams, don't you? Wolves, yes. Forest, I'm not sure.
No, they won't stay down there.
Leeds, Burnley, maybe. I don't know.
Take a hell of a turnaround in current form and current atmosphere around the club, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, Leeds, I think in some ways Burnley look more impressive than Leeds, but Leeds have always got the Ellen Road factor. That Ellen Road will get, just the crowd there will get them a few results. So I'm not saying Leeds are definitely going to stay up, but equally, I don't think they're a team who go down with sort of 20 points. So, already you're thinking this is a very... I mean, could Fulham get dragged into it? Particularly maybe if Marco Silva's head was turned somewhere else? I don't know, possibly, but you think they're well enough run and well enough organised that wouldn't happen?
Yeah, and the teams you've mentioned, even Burnley, they've got a good chance of winning games at home. Obviously, they won away last week, but they'll get behind the manager and behind the players. West Ham are probably the only team that don't really have that. It's the opposite. Anyone that goes to West Ham wins. Yeah,
I mean, I guess... Yeah, as you say, Wolves are sort of in the same bracket.
Yeah, Wolves, except for Wolves, because their place obviously turned last week as well.
But they're two teams who seem to me already very obviously worse than everybody else.
Okay, let's talk about Newcastle then. Really needed a win last week. It kind of gone a little bit under the radar that their start hadn't been brilliant in terms of winning games, and then they get a last-minute goal against Fulham and beat them 2-1. That was the only one. That was the only score I got right last week. But by the way, needed a win, didn't they? And they've won in the cup last night as well, so it feels like a little bit of momentum now for them.
Yeah, no, I think they've played all right. There isn't they've been playing particularly badly.
No.
Just, I guess the frustration for them is they lose Isak, and what's been a problem this season? It's been not taking chances. So although Valdemar's come in and maybe been a bit more prolific than we expected, there's still there is an issue of chance conversion there.
Wasteful players around him, I would say. Like the wingers have wasted so many chances.
Yeah, I think that's true. But I still think that fundamentally they've been playing well enough to sort of think, we'll be top 8, maybe top 6 by the end of the season. And the Carabao Cup sort of is opening up a bit now that, Arsenal and City are still in it, but there's a lot of big teams already gone out of that. So maybe, I don't know, would Newcastle fans take a decent run in the Champions League, qualifying for the Europa League and winning the Carabao Cup again? I suspect they probably would, wouldn't they?
I mean, it's same for me being a Villa fan. Like being in the Champions League feels like everything once you've been in it because of the revenue and the way it helps you grow as a club. But I'm sure they wouldn't say no to that season that you've just offered them. Yeah, and I think particularly after the turmoil of the summer, I actually think their transfer business ended up being pretty good. And if they'd done it, if they'd spun it in a more positive way, if they'd said,
look, we're getting this tremendous profit on Alexander Isak and we're able to reinvest it. And look at this bright young German player we brought in. We brought in Johan Wissa, who obviously we haven't seen because of his knee injury. But I think the idea of a front three of Gordon, Voltemada and Wissa is with Elanga in reserve I think that's pretty exciting, isn't it? So we've still got that very good midfield three. Bringing in Thiaw strengthens the backline, at least in terms of depth, if not necessarily.
People are raving about him. In fairness, I've not seen much of him, but people are raving about him.
Well, he's an odd player in that he was massively hyped 3 or 4 years ago. Then, for whatever reason, didn't quite seem to kick on. So I think he's a sensible sign and get a player like that in the mid-20s and sort of give him a new lease of life. So I think their transfer activity was actually pretty good. It was just for some reason they got fixated on hanging on to Isak. And actually, I think that business. I mean, it's not like Isak's done anything for Liverpool yet, is it? No. So, that will come. Obviously, it's not that he's suddenly gone hopeless. But I get that you get a player who looks genuinely world class, and you think we just need to bring up the rest of the squad to his level now, and then you lose him. But I just think that's the way it is for all teams, apart from the 3 or 4 biggest teams in the world. That you have a player of that quality. There is a danger you lose them. The issue then is how do you reinvest that money? And if you're going from 1 9.5 out of 10 to 3 8.5 out of 10 players, that's actually a step in the right direction, probably.
I'd agree with you. Let's get your score prediction then, Jonathan. I've gone for West Ham 0, Newcastle 3. Voltemada to score first.
Oh, I've gone 1-0 to Newcastle, Anthony Gordon.
Okay. Very good. Let's talk about Liverpool against Aston Villa then. Quite liked what Slot did last night, Jonathan, because he just thought, you know what, we're on a hopeless run at the moment. We're losing every week. I'm just going to play the third team. And if we lose, at least I can say it's because I've played the third team. And they lost pretty well.
Oh, I don't know. I think that's a mistake, actually. I think
no, but I can see what he's trying to do there. Because if he played the first team and they'd have lost again, then obviously they're going to get even more questions. But because it's his kind of third team, it's almost like it will slip under the radar a little bit.
Maybe, but 6 defeats out of 7 now. I think you've also got to remember it's not that any manager's going to a game thinking about, can I leave this with a good excuse for losing? That's really not a good place to be.
I mean, he might not have been doing that. That's just my assumption looking at the team selection.
Well, no, it definitely felt like that. I agree. Also, fans have paid money for that.
Yeah. I
think you can maybe get away with that a bit more away from home. But if I was a Liverpool fan, I'd be pretty annoyed by sort of just giving up on that. It's not like the rest of the season is going brilliantly. I know they've got fixtures coming up. I know they've got Real Madrid coming up in the Champions League. I know they've got it's a tough run, and that this maybe is the expendable game. But equally, the Carabao Cup is a trophy. It is a way of guaranteeing yourself European football for next season. I mean, that shouldn't be a problem for Liverpool. But I'm not sure that he's in a position now to sort of be able to sort of just give up a game. That can only sort of add to the mood of frustration, anxiety, depression around the club. So I'm not suggesting he should have played all his first teamers for 90 minutes, but I think there's ways of doing it without sort of just chucking the game. Because frankly, it does look cowardly. It does look like somebody looking for excuses. And yeah, maybe there is an argument to give a couple of the kids a start, give Ngomora a start and sort of see how it goes. And I think fans would be supportive of that, welcoming of that, forgiving of that. But when you give 5 or 6 of them a start, it is just sort of like, what's the point of this? And if you get away with it and you win, as Arsenal often did in 20 years ago in the League Cup, and everybody thinks Armand Traore is the greatest thing ever, well, brilliant. But was nowhere near what happened. They got absolutely played off the park by Palace again. And I think it's just another level of gloom. And I think for the first time last night, I was starting to think he might actually lose his job here.
Do you think that's a realistic possibility?
I do. I don't think it's imminent. Well, okay, what would have to happen for him to lose his job?
I guess just keep losing. But
I don't think we're far off. Like, say they lose another, I don't know, 4 of the next 5. I don't know how you justify keeping him in the job at that point. It's not even like you can see the end point that you're aiming towards. Or it's not even like there's been a load of injuries or something. It's just he seems to have. And what baffles me is last season he seemed incredibly clear-sighted. Regularly, his substitutions changed games for the better. He seemed like somebody who had a very, very clear vision of the game, what it should be, how he could improve it. This season, he's just chucking on forwards.
3 right backs per game.
I was at Brentford on Saturday, and there's a point in the second half. He sort of changed it again towards the end. So he obviously realised it got a bit weird. He had Sobersight at right back. He had who would be the holding midfielder have been?
McAllister was on at that point.
Was it McAllister? Yeah, well, you're right. It was McAllister. But then he had Wirtz and Chiesa playing as sort of inside forwards in his front
it was
five.
strange.
And obviously Brentford had gone into the game without playing in midfield. Was suddenly dominating the game in midfield, and it was a very I can't believe Florian Wirtz decided to move to Liverpool for £100+ million in order to play as a sort of shuttling inside forward. It seemed a very strange use of him. There was times in the game where Chiesa was breaking beyond Ekitike, and so they ended up playing a couple of long balls up to Chiesa with Ekitike behind him, which just sort of, that's surely the wrong way around. So it was just a mess by the end. And he, to be fair, he did then resolve that to an extent by bringing Gomez on at right back, pushing Sobersight back in midfield. And that led to that sort of flurry of pressure in the final 5 minutes or so. I think as much as anything else, because Brentford had sort of seen there was 7 minutes of injury time, were slightly baffled as the game stretched on into its 148th minute or whatever it was. But it just felt chaotic. And it's not the first time that's happened this season. So he feels like a manager who's grasping for solutions. He said afterwards, teams have worked out a good strategy for how to play against us, and we haven't found the answers to that yet. And you saw Brentford just pinging the balls in behind the fullbacks over and over again. Sharda's pace in behind Conor Bradley caused loads of problems. Every other team's going to do that. And also set plays, Liverpool aren't particularly good defending, in part just because their team's quite short. I mean, Wirtz is 5'9", McAllister's 5'7", 5'8". They're not short by the standards of normal people, but they are short by the standard of Premier League players when they're regularly coming up against teams who have essentially a team of 6-footers.
Yeah, I mean, I don't write a script for this show, but I did do some notes because I was doing The Guardian on Monday, and on 70 minutes, I literally wrote, what formation are Liverpool playing? Because I didn't have a clue what was going on. He's doing things that just won't catch on, that you won't ever see another manager do. Like, you won't see managers play 3 different right backs during a game. That won't happen. Move someone to right back, then put them back in midfield. They're doing things that just he's making too many changes. By the end of a game, when they're chasing, they're just so far away from what started, which then makes you think, well, you can't have been too confident on your tactics to begin with. But if you're going to get back into a football match, I would always say you're better off making subtle tweaks rather than just completely deviating from what you've worked on all week, because there's no way in training they've worked on that formation that you just described. It just won't have happened. So they are all over the place. I actually think a lot of their problems could be solved by either playing Joe Gomez at right back or playing him at centre back next to Van Dijk at the moment. I think he's got to do something with that back line, but he seems to have a reluctance to change it, even though it's clearly not working.
Well, I think this is where you see the issues of the squad. That I think, he could play Gomez at right back, clearly, but the danger is if you do that and he gets injured, they've got no cover at all for Konate and Van Dijk.
True.
There's just no centre-backs in the squad. And that's you're selling Quansah without having tied up the Gay deal has left them really short in that position. They're really short at the back of midfield as well. Gravenberch is a sort of, I don't want to say he's a makeshift number 6 because he obviously played the role incredibly well last season. But he's very much a sort of technical number 6. He's not a sort of destroyer. And then when he's injured, there's literally nobody. I mean, Curtis Jones up to a point, but I'm not sure Slot entirely trusts him. And also with Curtis Jones, like, he's a hugely gifted player, but I'm not entirely certain what his best position is, which isn't a bad thing. I mean, if he can play I
really like him as a player.
If he can play in all 3 midfield roles, well, in some ways that's really useful. But he's also means he's not the player you necessarily trust to play that number 6 role, particularly when McAllister is out of sorts, presumably a hangover from the muscle injury he had at the end of last season.
You mentioned if Slot might lose his job. I don't I don't see that. I don't think it will get that far, but it would be incredible if it did. And then,
well,
where would they turn?
There is precedent. Well, Klopp.
Nah, he wouldn't go back, surely.
I mean, he gave an interview last week where he said he'd be open to it. He
Really?
said, yeah, he said, what I said was I could not take another English job, but he said that doesn't, the implication being that doesn't mean he wouldn't go back to Liverpool. I don't know if he meant it like that, but it certainly wasn't the most useful interview for him to give. No. There is a history of managers who win the league in their first season, losing a job in the second. This is the kind of thing I should have written down, but I think I'm right in saying Jose Mourinho is the only one for whom that's not true. The only manager who's won the Premier League in their first season in the league, or first season at a club, rather. I think all the others have lost the job either in or right at the end of the second season. So Ancelotti, Ranieri, I don't know.
Conte was the second season.
Conte did win the league in his first season, didn't he? Lost the job in the second. Mancini and Pellegrini, were they?
No, they were there for a period.
Were they? Okay. Yeah, so
they didn't win the league in their first season, so I don't think either of them.
This would have been a good section if I'd made notes on it and written it down.
It's not what we do now. I'm actually thinking moving forward, I'm not bothering with the script. I quite like doing it without.
It's like freeform jazz in a cockroach-infested Ronnie Scott's.
Yeah, it's funny. We wouldn't. I don't think we'd have got to that stuff if I'd have wrote a running order.
There's an argument we got to it too early, but at least we can have callbacks to it now. So it looks like there's some kind of we're picking up a refrain from earlier in the piece.
Exactly.
To maintain the jazz metaphor.
This is brilliant stuff. That Klopp stuff's interesting as well. I hadn't seen that interview, so I'd not seen those or heard those sound bites. But yeah, probably not helpful at the current time. I do wonder if Arne won the league. He won the same amount of Premier Leagues for Liverpool as Jurgen Klopp, which is bizarre, isn't it, given the success that Klopp had and the esteem he's held in. But he's already won the same amount of Premier Leagues as Jurgen Klopp. But if he was to, you're right, if he was to carry on, maybe they would get rid of him. But I just never saw this coming. I never saw this coming at all.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't. The reason you don't see it coming is because there was a sense last season that sure Klopp had done a lot of the groundwork. I mean, Chiesa literally the only player added. And he only played 108 minutes. So that was Chiesa's on last Saturday. He meant he's now played more minutes this season than he did in the entirety of last in the league. But I think from Klopp's point of view, I mean, not even from Klopp's point of view, from a general point of view, you would say it's like Klopp's won 1.5 and Schlott's won 1.5. It's not that Schlott did nothing. Like, I think the idea that kind of, I don't know, the car was already running and Schlott just had to sort of drive it over the line. That's not true. Schlott had a major impact on last season, and his calmness, his capacity to change things midway through games definitely helped. But equally, the building of a team was Klopp's, and if you are Klopp, you might be thinking, God, if I'd only stayed on one more year till City went rubbish, like this would have been mine.
Yeah,
and maybe there is a bit of him thinks, God, I'm owed another one, which isn't how football works. But I could understand why he might think that.
Okay, well, one to keep an eye on. Got to say, Villa, obviously my team going there this weekend. I don't like playing teams that are in this kind of run because I just think it's not going to continue forever. At some point, things will change, and we'll be the fall guys. We'll turn up there and lose. But Liverpool and Villa seasons are quite interesting because they've kind of done the opposite of each other. Liverpool won all their opening games, now can't buy a win. Villa couldn't even score a goal in the first 4 or 5 games. Now they're winning every week. So there's a little bit of opposites going on here.
Yeah, I mean, I think we do Villa every week, so you know what I think about Villa.
Well, we don't need to go too much into detail.
I think they had a very childish tantrum at the start of the season, and now thankfully somebody's given them a slap and they've got out of it, and they're playing to the level of a squad. And obviously beating City last week is a great result and a very good performance. I know they do it every season pretty much these days, but they shut down Haaland like he hasn't been shut down this season. So I just think that bit of silliness the first month of the season, first 6 weeks of the season, if it hadn't had that, they'd be up there challenging Arsenal at the minute.
Okay, as you said, we've done Villa every week, so we won't do them again, and we're already 40 minutes into this show as well. Let's have your prediction then for Liverpool against Aston Villa, Jonathan.
Liverpool to win 2-1, Ekitike.
Okay, I've gone for Liverpool 1, Aston Villa 1 with Morgan Rogers to score the first goal. Should we do our other predictions before we touch on Spurs and Chelsea?
Yes.
Okay, Jonathan, what have you got for Brighton Leeds?
Brighton Leeds 1-0 to Brighton, Danny Welbeck.
Brighton 2, Leeds 0, Danny Welbeck. I've gone for Burnley 0, Arsenal 2 with Saka to score first.
Burnley 0, Arsenal 2 with Gyökeres to score first.
Ooh, okay. Crystal Palace Brentford, Jonathan.
1-0 to Palace, Mateta.
Okay, I've gone 1-1, Thiago to score the first goal. I've gone for Fulham 2, Wolves 1, Iwobi.
1-0 to Fulham, Muniz.
Okay. Forest 2, Manchester United 3 for me. Sesko to score first.
2-1 to United, Cunha.
Nice. What have you got for Manchester City against Bournemouth, Jonathan? I can guess your first goal scorer.
First goal scorer is Haaland, and I've gone 2-1 to City, and that's the game I'm at this weekend.
Interesting.
So.
I've gone for the exact same prediction as you. And then finally, you touched on it earlier. I know we did Sunderland v Everton, didn't we?
We did. 1-0 and Joe to Everton.
Okay, 2-0 to Sunderland. Isidore. Let's look at Tottenham against Chelsea then, Jonathan, before we depart. The game that all Spurs fans don't look forward to because they just never do anything against Chelsea. Can they this time?
Well, their home form has not been good. They're good performance to come away from home. I think they're weirdly inconsistent this season, Spurs. Often even within games. I mean, I was at the game in Bordeaux when they drew 2-2 with Klimt. And they were dreadful for 65 minutes and then very good for 20 minutes. So it's not unexpected with a new manager that takes time for things to settle down. He has had a load of injuries to deal with. That the front four is essentially totally different to last season, and that will, partly because of injuries, partly because of departures, that will take time to settle down. So I think they're very up and down at the moment, and therefore very hard to predict. But I think you have to trust Thomas Frank that things are moving in the right direction, but they have had some pretty ropey home games. So the Villa defeat, the Bournemouth defeat, and then the draw against Wolves.
Yeah, that was probably the one, wasn't it? The Wolves one, in fact.
Yeah, I mean that was really poor. Just couldn't get going, couldn't create chances, and I think that is their problem this season. And Thomas Franks said that it's the front four aren't familiar with each other, and it will take time to get that right. I'm sure he'd love to have Solanke back. Which is still a few weeks off, I think. So,
Kulusevski, they're desperate for him as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think until he got injured, he was probably their best player last season. So, and Maddison as well, obviously. So they've lost a lot of creativity and goal threat there. So very reliant on Richarlison.
They're very reliant on set pieces last week as well.
Well, they scored them, didn't they? So
yeah, it doesn't matter, does it?
That's the modern Premier League. 19% of all goals come from corners. For more on that, see my column in The Guardian at the weekend.
Interesting. Yeah, there is. I mean, everyone talks about Arsenal set pieces, but Tottenham literally beat Everton last week. Was it Everton? I've suddenly got a memory blank. Yeah, they beat Everton probably purely off set pieces. David Moyes must have been fuming with that, by the way.
And Everton could have scored they did score a set piece of their own, which was ruled out for the offside, wasn't it? So
game of set pieces.
Yeah.
This one probably won't be a game of set pieces, but obviously Chelsea, as we know, lost to Sunderland last week. Does that create any form of fragility for Chelsea?
I mean, I think it reflects it rather than creating it. I think I'm not sure why that game last week, why Ashimpong was taken off when he'd probably been Chelsea's certainly the best defender, maybe even their best player. I think there was real hesitancy in dealing with Brian Brobby, as we said at the end, which speaks of a defence that's a bit unsure.
He's still holding that ball up now, by the way.
They then let in 3 against Wolves in the Carabao Cup, having been 3-0 up. So, I think it's a bad place for Chelsea to be. That they're short of creativity because of Cole Palmer not being there, and they're also pretty vacant at the back and there's doubts over the keeper. So apart from that, everything's going great. But my logic when I started thought they'd be champions, I just thought they had the best midfield, and their midfield has been really good.
Caicedo's been brilliant, yeah. Yeah,
Caicedo is great. Enzo Fernandez, I think, is really good, and then whether it's Reece James or Lavia or Andre Santos coming into that 3, it's a really good, strong, solid unit, nicely blended unit. But the problem is that if a defence is hopeless and the attack's hopeless, it doesn't really matter.
No, it just never. I always feel like we're waiting for something with Chelsea, but I never know what it is that we're waiting for, and should we still be waiting for it after this long and this level of investment?
Well, their average age against Sunderland last week was just over 24. Sunderland's just over 25. And Sunderland's squad is terrifyingly young. So if Chelsea's is younger than that, I guess that's the issue. You kind of have to wait because they are so young. But I think they've got a bit hung up on the idea of sell-on value. And I think if you have a team full of kids, it's not. They need to learn from somebody. It's great to have the energy and to have the vitality and the freshness and the sort of fearlessness of youth. But it is, and why did Sunderland bring in Granit Xhaka to give them that solidity? Why did they bring in people like Mukiele and Alderete with their experience to just sort of a calm head is very useful to get even more out of the kids. And I just think Chelsea have never really done that. Their obsession with youth is fine up to a point. But Brentford have done the same. Brighton have done it. Yeah, they're very good at identifying unheard of Paraguayan 17-year-olds, but they blend them with people like Danny Welbeck. And Chelsea just haven't done that, which I think suggests the lack of football knowledge at the top of the club.
Because I just think as well, probably haven't started the way they expected or wanted to. That club is probably already thinking about January and, what can we do in January to tweak this? But if every transfer window you're going through that cycle, you're never going to get to where you want to be because nothing's ever going to be established.
Yeah, and I think they've got them. I mean, that's true, but I think they've also got themselves in a situation where they kind of have to do that because of how PSR works. They've got
defensive problems in fairness to them as well.
Well, the injuries, yeah, but they need to keep selling and buying to keep that PSR churn going. And they found a loophole, or they found a way of playing the system. But it does mean there's constant churn at the club, and that's probably depends what your aim is. If your aim is to make money out of the clubs and make money out of player trading, well, that's fine. If it's actually win trophies, it's probably not fine. But they are the world champions, so
yeah. And they always beat Tottenham. Whatever is happening, whatever is going on, they always beat Tottenham.
Yes, that has changed slightly recently, hasn't it? And my prediction is for them not to win that game. Actually,
go on then.
I've gone 1-1. Richarlison to score first.
I've gone for 1-1 as well. I've gone for a different South American to score first. I've gone for Enzo Fernandez to score first in this one. So that suggests that although I've just said they always beat Tottenham, we don't think that they'll beat Tottenham the weekend. No, I mean, that record held for a long, long time, didn't it? And then did Tottenham suddenly end that run by beating them 5-0 or 5-1 or something? I don't remember this.
This was a while. I remember I was at the Cup of Nations. I can't remember where I was when it happened. But they'd gone since the 90s without beating them, Spurs, and they suddenly smashed them. Where would that have been? I can't remember where I was when it happened. I mean, the thing is, I'm an old man, so things that happened 15 years ago.
You're not that much older than me.
I act it.
More mature, for sure. More established in their career, for sure. But I don't think you're not that much older than me.
It's 9 years. 9 long years.
True. In football terms, that would be a lot, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Well, I'm as much older than you as Bobby Charlton was from George Best.
Yeah, we've had that conversation before, haven't we? Chelsea, I mean, I don't think Chelsea would sign either of us, but certainly me being 9 years younger, they would be more likely to sign me than you.
I mean, they're not going to sign a 40-year-old. They're not going to sign a 49-year-old.
No, I know, but I know what I'm trying to say here. It's maybe not come across well, but I know what I'm trying to get. They're going to go for the younger person, is what I'm saying.
They like youth. They do like youth.
Exactly. So they don't like either of us at all, but they would go for me because I'm 9 years younger. That feels like an appropriate place to end this ramble, really, Jonathan. I don't know about you, though. I've quite enjoyed doing it kind of unplanned. Do you remember Bardell and Skinner unplanned on ITV?
No.
Okay, Jonathan doesn't watch television.
It's too late for me. But basically, once Grayson had retired, that was it for me.
But Dale and Skinner just used to go and do a show, and it was on ITV and it was live, and they didn't know what they were going to talk about. They were kind of guided by the audience, like they'd interact with the audience, and then we've not done that in fairness. So we don't have
an audience.
Yeah, so, we don't yet. Really, we're still trying to establish ourselves, Jonathan. I struggle with the clipping up and all that stuff. It's finding time to do it, and then we need to do it. Really,
you're gonna have to do it. I can't do it. I'm 49.
Do you not do? Obviously, you've got a different microphone head there. There are other podcasts out there. Do you not do it for that?
I get sent the clips and then I post them, but I don't know how to do the clipping.
You've got a guy.
Yeah,
you've got a guy.
I've got a producer.
I'm the producer of this show, and this is why we don't get anything clipped up. And
Do your job as a producer.
I'm trying. It's just time. It's a time factor. It's the time factor, Jonathan. But
get up earlier. Get up an hour earlier.
We're doing a podcast at 8 a.m.
I've already been up for 2.25 hours.
Wow. Well, I will say though, I'm enjoying doing it, which is the main thing for me. If I'm going to do anything.
Well, I need money out of this.
So we'd like to make some money, of course, but I do it just enjoy doing it. I'd missed catching up with you every week, and now I get to do that. I'm just using this as a vehicle to catch up with you every week.
Oh, well, that's nice. It's I feel it's like therapy. I get to talk about my cockroaches and Larry Grayson. Yeah. So
okay. Well, we've got one more week before the international break, haven't we? So we've got another show next week, and then
we should do one during the international break.
Yeah, we did. You were away last time.
I
was unorganised. There was time difference. There was just lots going on, wasn't there? Yeah. But yeah, we'll do one in the next international break. Maybe we'll just do one that's guided by the three people that are watching the show. Bardell and Wilson, unplanned.
Send in your questions. We'll do that in 2 weeks. Why don't we say that? That's interaction. People like interaction, don't they?
I think the main thing is that the people that are watching it and taking it in are enjoying it. That's the main thing. But then we've changed the format this week by not planning anything, so they may not have enjoyed this week. But let us know in the comments if you have.
Yes, please do.
Yeah, brilliant. Right, Jonathan, thank you very much. Don't forget to subscribe with your post notifications on. I believe we are now available on Apple Podcast and Spotify as well, if you wanted to check us out via that. But I guess you either already are checking us out via that if you're listening to this, or you're watching on YouTube and you've watched anyway, so you're probably not going to go on Apple and Spotify, but I'll advertise this fact.
Tell people. They can tell people.
Yeah, that'll be good. That'll work, won't it? So yeah, let's go. Jonathan, thank you very much yet again. This has been 1992. It's a goodbye from me and a goodbye from Jonathan Wilson too.